So there is this Trump trade war that is affecting farmers, MAGA farmers, and they've been affected for a long time. Guys, welcome yet again to another Christian take on strange videos. Let's get it.
This is my 39th crop. I started in 1986, the year I graduated high school. I could plant an acre of beans in 1986 for 30 bucks. It irritates me that you don't have the guts to acknowledge that the people do not pay the tariffs. I don't care if it's John Deere, Case, Caterpillar, all that stuff is outsourced overseas. And the guy that pays it is the guy that purchases it. I can buy a bearing for a combine, and it's made in Taiwan or who knows where. Parts have over doubled in the last year, if you can get them. The dealer at Marshall has a backlog for almost 4 months because they can't get parts because of Trump's stupid tariffs. I think agriculture has taken a heck of a hit on a lot of misinformation, and he is not helping the farmer. I mean, we farm about 3,500 acres. We are going to be so far in the red. When are you going to stand up for us instead of kissing his ass for these trade deals? And the tariff, more so the tariffs than the trades.
Hey! Yes, sir.
I think it's safe to say that no group in the United States has felt the effects of Donald Trump's policies more intensely than American farmers. And I know that's a bold statement, right? We've got them going around right now beating the tar out of people in D.C. with Donald Trump's Gestapo. We have American citizens being rounded up and put in concentration camps. But hear me out when I say that nobody has been more affected by all of Trump's policies than American farmers. And here's why. Obviously, Donald Trump's crackdown on immigration has left crops in the field to rot. And that is according to the farmers themselves. We're starting to see more and more of those reports coming out because they have no workers. The workers are afraid to show up because they are living in fear that they'll be deported, or the workers have already been deported and there's nobody around in the local community willing to come and do this work. So farmers are being hit financially because of that. They don't get as many crops picked. They don't get as many to market. They don't sell as much. They make less money. The second way, of course, they're being screwed, and this has been happening since the first Trump administration, is with his trade policy, the trade war. The tariffs on American produce going to foreign countries have made it to where farmers are selling less overseas. So their income once again takes a hit. They've just been hit all across the board, right? Cuts to Medicaid are going to shut down many of these rural hospitals and doctors' offices that these people depend on. So across the board, everything Trump has done is screwing over this group financially more than any other group. And let's never forget, this is a group that overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump in 2024. But what impacts them impacts the rest of us. And now these farmers have yet another reason to be angry at the Trump administration, specifically what they call the hypocrisy of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The director of Health and Human Services, of course, came into Washington, D.C., raspily telling us about his Make America Healthy Again campaign, because God knows if you want to make America healthy, you need to listen to a guy who sounds like he eats gravel for breakfast. You know, that definitely off to a great start there. But anyway, I know he has a condition. I worked with him for years. I know about the condition. I know about the treatments he's had. I get it, but he's a jackass, so I'm going to act like that, right? I'm not going to go high when they go low. I'm going to go even lower because that's what I do, and I love it. But here's the thing. Kennedy, according to these farmers, came in with all these lofty promises, right? We're going to make America healthy again. We're going to start feeding them real food.
Wow.
Well, it looks like Trump has finally pissed the farmers off. Let's get into it. The report is in. the U.S. farmers went from a $12 billion trade agreement with China to zero. His mass deportations have left the farmers with no workers or hardly any. Then on top of that, his increase in tariffs made them lose one of their biggest buyers, which was China. Now China is going to Brazil and Africa. This is your wonderful president. A lot of farmers have had to file bankruptcy. A lot of farmers are losing their farms. Yet and still, we have the wonderful president sitting up in the Oval Office, signing. Take a listen to this farmer who did an interview explaining the struggle that they're having.
Disappearing profits are making it nearly impossible for them to break even, let alone to turn a profit. One of those farmers calls the president's tariffs, quote, the ice cream on top of a cake of a perfect storm. He joins us now, Arkansas farmer Scott Brown, who attended last week's town hall. Scott, really good to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me about what's happening with your farm.
Well, we've got a real disaster with this tariff deal. I mean, we produce 40% more agricultural products in this country than we can consume domestically. 1 in every 4 rows of soybeans in every field in the entire United States of America has to go abroad. China is the largest importer of soybeans in the world. They import 61% of the world's market. Last year, we sent around $12 billion, I think $14 billion worth of soybeans the year before. For the first time in 20 years, China's bought 0 soybeans and 0 new crop corn out of this country.
0?
So we went from 12 billion to 0.
Where are they buying the soybeans?
Brazil. You see, we lost 42% of our market share in the first tariff war. In Trump's first tariff war, the Chinese went to buying their soybeans from Brazil. They invested billions of dollars in Brazilian infrastructure. They have moved into Africa, and they're going to commercially farm in Africa. Since we left with USAID, they moved their Belt and Road program into Africa. So we've pretty much lost the Chinese market share. If we got 100% of the soybean business, Katie, for every country in the world except for Brazil and Argentina, we would still only have half the soybean business that China is.
Are you getting 100% of everything else?
Yeah, if we got 100% of everything else, we would still only have half the Chinese business.
Well, what are you getting right now if you're not getting China? Are you getting every other market out there?
Or probably some other countries, and the market's pretty stifled. Most of our soybeans here go to the Mississippi River. It's the closest place to market them. They're going to go downriver and go overseas somewhere at some point. Beans are about $10.28 on the board today. We're going to get 40 cents behind that as a basis because the elevators are going to want to control their hedge. It's going to cost us 50 or 60 cents in a truck to get there, so we're getting in the low 9s. And Purdue University will tell you it takes $12.03 to raise them.
Okay, so you farm soybeans. You farm 800 acres. You know, $0 coming from China. That's a problem. How are you going to pay your bills? Are you turning a profit? Are you breaking even?
I hope to break even this year. I farm so little, I farm by myself. My tractors are all paid for. They're old. They're 50 years old. My tractors were all made in the 70s. My combine was made in 1997. I cut a load of beans, put it in the truck, and haul it to the river myself. So I've got a lot less cost than most of these boys. I've got friends that farm 5,000 and 6,000 and 7,000 acres that have millions.
This is why one great man said, it's not about black or white. It's the context of the person's character. And this is the character that you guys voted for. Donald Trump and his administration is causing the farmers to fail. Like, comment, share, and follow me for more controversial topics.
Whew. I feel like at this point we want to listen from the government. We want to know why they are doing what they are doing, what reason they're giving at this point, because the people are indeed frustrated.
Yeah, look, the biggest thing is we need markets. We produce more than we use ourselves. We don't just feed Minnesota or America, we feed the world. And we need those markets. We establish them over decades to get to them. What's happening now is every bin is full of soybeans. We're going to have a record harvest come in. There's going to be soybeans in garages, on the streets, wherever we can put them, because there's nowhere to go and we have to sell them. So the way we can support them is making sure that happens. Second thing we need to do is one of the biggest expenses for farm families, healthcare. They're self-employed. $25,000 a year in premiums to buy healthcare. It's unsustainable. So one of the spouses works in town to try and get healthcare for the family, and then making sure we're investing in rural schools, rural infrastructure. Because people say we put a ton of money into a bridge and only 10 families use it. Yeah, but those 10 families feed 10,000. And so I think it's making the case that these vibrant rural communities, as they start to collapse, the real problem is folks swoop in and buy up this land. And then we get consolidation. And look, you can have your own feelings on that. Maybe it's more efficient or whatever, but there's not going to be small communities. There's no reason for folks to live there if we're consolidating these farms into massive sizes. So we can make sure we buy American products. We can make sure that we're investing in those rural communities. And I'll just make my pitch again. We've got to have markets where we trade with the world. Our soybeans, our corn, our commodities are the best in the world. We need to sell them to folks.
I feel like I've understood this person more than the rest. It's we need this, we need that, because when you do this,
All right, it's almost been 24 hours since Donald Trump made the decision to strike Iran, enter the United States into war, and the MAGA base is very, very, very upset. So we're going to react to some clips and some tweets of, first of all, a lot of MAGA leaving, saying, you betrayed us, this is not what we voted for, as the majority of polling has shown, but also clips of Republicans talking endlessly before the election about how Donald Trump was the peace president, and Joe Biden, was the one who was going to get us into war. Now, before I start this video, once again, my name's Chris Maurer. I'm filling in for Adam Mockler on the Adam Mockler channel. And if you enjoy this content, the link to my YouTube channel will be in the description down below. Obviously, my setup here looks a little bit different. I am traveling right now, running around a bit. And if you appreciate that, it would mean a lot if you just hit like on this video. On this channel, we're trying to build something big, punch back against MAGA media going into 2026, 2028, and beyond. And to join this awesome community, all you have to do is subscribe. All right, let's take a look at some of these clips, or at some of these screenshots, clips, before we get into some of this article. So first, we have some pretty easy stuff, some stuff that we're seeing really just everywhere on the internet right now. This is Pete Hegseth, essentially showing people Donald Trump's True Social post, saying any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight, referring to potentially strikes moving forward on Iran. And this person says, I trusted you. I'm done with MAGA and all your bullshit. My son is a sitting duck on a fucking destroyer, you stupid asshole. Well, those are pretty strong words, but also understandable. Because again, something else that Donald Trump didn't really seem to acknowledge much of at all, maybe a little bit at the end of his speech, is that there's military service members right now in the Middle East at serious risk. And if you're somebody out there who is either serving this country or has family members who are serving, we're all thinking of you right now, and we appreciate you, because you're putting service members, again, in serious danger and at serious risk, something that you explicitly promised you wouldn't do. You explicitly said Joe Biden was the one who was going to do that, and you were going to make peace because you're the master negotiator. You can get on the phone call and end these wars within, one call. Apparently not this time, though. That's because he's not the master negotiator. We go to the next one. The fake president of the United States is on his way to Israel because he is determined to start a nuclear war. To change the narrative, he will spill our children's blood. Wow, that's pretty intense, again, from the same person who posted this. Let's go to the next one. We have a fairly large creator on Twitter here, Hillbilly Things. I wish I never voted for @RealDonaldTrump. I will never, ever vote again. Now with almost 1 million views and 30...
Whoa!
These Republican voting farmers are finding out the hard way. Caleb Ragland grows soybeans in Kentucky. He's voted for Trump every election since 2016. And now, he calls the current crisis Farmageddon. Why is he calling it Farmageddon? Because Trump's trade war shut down their biggest customer, China. Soybeans used to be a $25 billion export. Now they're sitting in bins unsold while Brazil cashes in. And Caleb's not alone. Eric Yukin, a 7th generation farmer in Iowa, with 750 acres of corn and 600 of soybeans, also voted for Trump in 2024. I didn't anticipate it being as bad as it is, he says. You didn't remember Trump screwing you guys over his last presidency? The funniest quote he says is that it's kind of the government that's put us in this situation. Eric, you don't say. He says pigs and cattle are keeping his farm afloat, barely. But there's no clear plan from DC. Just a maybe later bill that won't help until next year. This year's crop is rotting. We don't know what's happening day to day, Yukin says. Man, what a great guy to vote for. Someone that you have no idea what he'll screw up next. The last time we had bailouts was to buy future votes. Now, it doesn't matter anymore, he says. Ding, ding, ding. We got a winner, Eric. Trump's not coming to save you. He got what he wanted. Power, attention, money, and chaos. While you got tariffs, bankruptcy, and empty silos. And now that the votes are in and the markets are gone, he's moving on. While you're still out in the field waiting for a harvest that has nowhere to go. I hope you like soybeans, because there's going to be plenty of leftovers for you to eat.
Farmers across the United States are, of course, panicking right now because Donald Trump's tariffs are destroying what was set to be a record year for crop yield. American farmers overperformed this year in what they were able to grow. And that is a great thing. Typically, that means food prices go down. But unfortunately, thanks to Donald Trump's trade war and his, bit of a standoff with China right now, that's not actually happening. What is happening instead is that farmers are now poised, in spite of record crop yields, to lose over $12 billion this year because China's not buying our crops anymore. None. China has not purchased any soybeans from the United States since March. And that alone will cost these farmers $12 billion this year. It's bad. And according to one farmer, most farmers won't survive this. Here is what that farmer said. It is U.S. farmers who are feeling the pain. Nearly a quarter of the more than 4 billion bushels of soybeans American farmers grow each year are exported to China, which is by far the world's biggest soy importer. The country imported nearly $13 billion of soybeans from the U.S. last year, compared with about $2 billion 2 decades ago. We have a large number of farmers that won't survive this. I don't know if I need to, but I am going to point out the fact that farmers, as people, as an industry, as whatever, overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. So obviously these guys are totally regretting all their votes, right? I mean, they voted for this, and now they're the ones getting screwed more than anybody on both the labor side and the commerce side, right? Well, farmers are still not blaming Trump for his trade policies yet, which is a sign of just how much grace the agriculture community continues to grant Trump, even as his ambitious efforts to restructure the global trade economy clash directly with their economic interests. So, no, they don't blame the man who is now costing them $12 billion. As the one farmer said, most farmers won't survive this. Most farmers also voted for this, and now most farmers also don't blame the guy they voted for that is doing this for doing this. So to that I say, bye. Lose everything. I have no sympathy. Yeah, maybe it'll drive food prices up for us too. That sucks. But if these people do not learn from their mistakes, what does that mean they're going to do, folks? It means they're just going to keep making the same mistake election after election after election until they're no longer with us. So you're going to make us continue to suffer for your stupidity while you're also suffering even more from your stupidity than we are. But you're just going to make everybody suffer because you don't understand who is screwing you over. I shouldn't suffer because you can't learn a lesson. You watching this video, you shouldn't suffer because some dipshit can't learn from their mistakes. That's not on you, it's on them, but you end up paying the price for it. That's why this pisses me off. That's why I don't have sympathy for these people. Because you made a choice in November of 2024. You voted for the hate, you voted for the bigotry, you voted for the rage, you voted for the tariffs. We're all paying the price for it, and we didn't do that. We didn't cause it. And for the ones out there who are suffering from it, because there are farmers that are suffering from it and said, man, I regret voting for this guy. This isn't to you. To any Trump voter that said, I regret voting for the guy, this isn't to you. This is to the people who still wake up and put on that MAGA hat as they head down to the unemployment line. This is for the people who still wave that Trump flag on the back of their truck as they watch the tow truck pulling away with it because it was just repossessed. Those are the people that voted for all of us to suffer, and we're paying for their mistakes. They may be paying a little more right now, but they didn't learn from those mistakes. So they will continue to vote for us to suffer because they're a gaggle of idiots.
Breaking news. The Trump administration has blocked a U.S. Department of Agriculture report showing a $49.5 billion deficit in agricultural trade products with the United States and the rest of the world due to his tariffs. The report was dated May 29th, and the report has been heavily redacted. Donald Trump held it up because he didn't want the world and didn't want U.S. citizens and MAGA and others to see that because of his actions, farmers are going to lose billions and billions of dollars thanks to Donald Trump's trade policies. They did so before in his first term, where he had to bail them out to a tune of about $30 billion because of his trade war and tariff war with China at the time. Still seeing the same thing now. China and many other countries have canceled contracts with the United States. They're looking outside the United States to purchase. And farmers and those that are employed on farms are going to pay the price for Donald Trump. There you have it. Love to hear from my Democrats and my MAGAs and my crazies and my cuckoos and my burned out labels. They want to hide everything, just like Ron DeSantis in Florida want to hide everything. How is that Hope for Florida Foundation going, Governor DeSantis? Out a little wind.
I'm out here in the farm fields of Illinois. This is a bean field that just turned brown in mid-September. And there's a lot of concern over where the product that these farmers in Illinois have raised is going to be going and what kind of price they'll get for the crops they've raised. I grew up in this area. I went to Little Canaan High School. It's about 2 miles north of here. And I went to school with all the farm kids, and I even grew up in eastern Pennsylvania and went to school with Amish and Mennonite kids in Lancaster County. And growing up, I had an uncle who ran a farm in upstate New York. So I have some history with an empathy for farmers because I watch how hard they work to get this crop on the ground and its timing and the rains in spring, whether they come or not. One year it was too wet. The next year it's too dry. It's tough being a farmer. But what's even tougher is growing all this crops and having all the equipment and debt you need to be a farmer and then be cast aside by things like tariffs. And that's what's so confusing to me. The people out here in farm country, a lot of them have Trump signs in their lawns. There's a huge one up the road here. When I'm cycling over the summer, I see them all over the place. Probably see 10 to 20 in a 40-mile ride. And that indicates to us that farmers are big into Republican values. And that's the other side of the coin here. You know, what is the ideology driving people to want to be Republican. Well, over the centuries, that we've had farming here in the United States, there's been a lot of deception by conservatives. The Dust Bowl came about because people were told to go on out, God will help you, and rain will follow the plow. And that was a lie. And what we wound up with is agricultural conditions that basically turned the entire Great Plains to dust. And there's sort of a similar thing going on in Illinois in many states because soils are not in a great condition here either. And there's just sort of been this profit-oriented idea that it's your job to go and grind up the soil and get what you can out of it, get the best price for it, and we'll take care of the rest. It's that classic sort of go, go, go ideology that people pride themselves on in America. But, sustainability is a real problem. That's true in terms of economic markets, where a lot of crops from the United States are sold to other countries, for example, China. And now we've imposed tariffs on China, and guess who winds up paying the price? It's Illinois and Iowa and Wisconsin and Missouri and Nebraska and all these farmers that, work their lives trying to sustain their crop output every year. And Trump doesn't care about those people. But what he does do, and this is sort of his method, he has never had a good grasp of forecasting policy. He bankrupted casinos, for instance, right? And many, many of his businesses failed. And those that did sort of succeed were dependent on creative bookkeeping. The guy is not a good planner. He could never be a good farmer. He sucks at everything he does. But somehow he came up with this let's do something about our markets idea with tariffs, and they've never been proven to work. And right now, something like 86 to 90% of the tariffs are being absorbed not by foreign companies, but by Americans paying higher product prices. And the farmers are the ones that get kicked right in the nuts. And what does Trump do? He uses taxpayer money to pay them off for the fuck-ups that he did. And that's the sick aspect of it. And all these guys with Trump signs out here, they're happy to ask for handouts now when many of them apparently don't like, the idea that immigration people come here and, they're using our tax dollars. Blame immigrants for everything. Well, guess what? A lot of our farm production, especially things like fruits and vegetables and everything, are reliant on immigrant workers. And so Trump is
So we've heard from the farmers, we've heard from the people that are against the ruling government. We are yet to bring you videos from the ruling government as to why they are doing what they're doing, so that we can have an informed opinion about this. Remember to always see both sides and have an informed opinion about anything before moving forward with saying things that you might regret later. But as of now, we put the farmers in the United States that are facing such a big deficit and loss. The things that we've had right now, we are placing them in good hands. Oh, why? Every country has its baggage, you guys, at this point. Every country has things that it's facing and going on, and it's crazy. It's crazy out here. And we are going to bring you videos from the other side to tell you what the government is telling its citizens. As of now, there we have it, you guys. What is your opinion? What do you think is happening in America? Do you think that Donald Trump is making America great again or not? See you next time. Oh, no guns, but see you next time.